Ma'am, I'm quoting the law exactly as it's written. No, officer, that's not correct. The statute you're referencing applies only to commercial vehicles. My car doesn't fall under that classification. Are you trying to disrespect me? You think you know my job better than I do? I'm not disrespecting you. I'm informing you. And your traffic stop is not legal. You cannot stop talking. You need to stop talking like you're teaching a class. I could teach one if I wanted to, but right now I'm explaining why your stop violates the Fourth Amendment. You're twisting things. I know what I'm doing. Then tell me the exact code section that authorizes this stop. You're being argumentative. No, officer, I'm being accurate. You pulled me over because of my skin color, and you know it, and now you realize the stop itself won't hold up. Ma'am, listen. At precisely 6 p.m. on a desert highway in Arizona, a traffic stop that should have lasted 5 minutes morphed into a career-ending moment for one police officer. The body camera footage would later go viral, accumulating millions of views across social media platforms. However, this wasn't your typical police encounter video. This was different. This depicted a law student, armed with knowledge, confronting an officer who believed his badge rendered him unchallengeable. What transpired next would astonish the entire police department, ignite heated debates in law schools nationwide, and demonstrate that sometimes the individual being stopped possesses more information than the one conducting the stop. Before we proceed, could you do me a favor? Leave a comment and inform me of your viewing location. And if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. This story escalates further, and you won't want to miss the ensuing events. Cindy Cota was not your average 26-year-old. While most individuals her age were still navigating their career paths or frequently changing jobs, Cindy was in her final year at Arizona State University's law school. However, here's the remarkable aspect. She wasn't merely attending law school, she was excelling in it. Cindy maintained the highest grade point average in her class. She had already authored 2 articles published in legal journals. Her professors often jested that she corrected their lectures more frequently than she received corrections on her papers. Cindy's specialization was constitutional law, with a particular focus on the Fourth Amendment. If you're unfamiliar with it, allow me to provide a simple explanation. The Fourth Amendment safeguards individuals against unlawful searches and seizures by the government. It's the segment of the Constitution stipulating that law enforcement cannot detain, search, or apprehend you without adequate justification. Cindy had dedicated 3 years to thoroughly studying every case, every exception, and every loophole within this legal domain. Her understanding surpassed that of many practicing attorneys. On that specific March day, Cindy was driving home from the university library. She had just concluded her preparations for her final examinations. The sun was descending, casting beautiful orange and purple hues across the Arizona sky, reminiscent of postcard scenery. The desert landscape stretched out on either side of the highway. The atmosphere was tranquil. Cindy had her music playing at a low volume, her windows down, savoring the cool evening breeze. She was not exceeding the speed limit. She was not weaving erratically. She was not using her phone. She was simply driving, maintaining her lane, adhering to every traffic regulation precisely as written. Her vehicle was a standard sedan, nothing ostentatious, nothing that would attract undue attention. The registration was up to date. The license plates were clearly visible. Everything was in compliance with the law. Then, she observed flashing lights in her rearview mirror. Red and blue lights pierced through the golden hour sunset. Cindy's heart did not race with anxiety. It surged with immediate suspicion. She mentally reviewed the past few miles of her journey. No traffic signals ignored, no speed limit infractions, no unpredictable lane changes, nothing untoward. So, why was she being stopped? She guided her car to the highway shoulder, shifted into park, and switched off the engine. She placed both hands on the steering wheel, ensuring they were clearly visible. This was not her initial encounter with law enforcement, and she was familiar with the protocol. She was also acutely aware of her rights, each and every one. The officer who approached her window was Jeffrey Maris, a Caucasian male in his early 40s, with approximately 12 years of service on the force. He had a standard physique, a neat uniform, and a body camera attached to his chest, which was recording the entire interaction. Jeffrey had conducted hundreds of traffic stops throughout his career. This, he presumed, was routine. License and registration, Jeffrey stated, his tone already betraying a hint of impatience. Cindy remained composed. Officer, before I retrieve anything, could you please inform me of the reason for this stop? This is the juncture where matters began to unfold unfavorably for Jeffrey. In the majority of traffic stops, individuals simply present their documents. They do not question. They do not challenge. They certainly do not inquire about the reason for the stop prior to complying. Jeffrey was unaccustomed to this. "Ma'am, kindly provide your license and registration." "I will," Cindy replied, her voice steady and professional. "However, I am legally entitled to know the reason for this stop." "What traffic violation did you observe?" Jeffrey's jaw tensed. The body camera footage clearly captured that moment when an officer realizes the individual they have stopped will not be easily intimidated. "Your vehicle's lane position was suspicious." Cindy nearly smiled. Nearly. Suspicious lane position does not constitute a violation of Arizona traffic laws. Could you be more specific regarding the violation you observed? Jeffrey's hand drifted towards his belt, an instinctive gesture of authority. "Ma'am, I am not obligated to explain myself to you. License and registration, now." But Cindy did not yield. "Actually, officer, under Terry v. Ohio, you are required to articulate reasonable suspicion for this stop. Suspicious is not articulable suspicion. It is a gut feeling. And feelings do not meet the constitutional threshold for a lawful traffic stop." A quick question for our viewers. Have you ever been stopped by the police and wondered if the stop was even legal? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. This is the precise moment when the dynamics of the situation shifted entirely. Jeffrey had never encountered someone quoting legal precedents during a traffic stop. Most individuals he pulled over were nervous, compliant, occasionally argumentative, but never possessed of actual legal standing. He was entirely unaware that he had just stopped someone capable of reciting Supreme Court decisions from memory. "Ma'am, are you a lawyer?" Jeffrey inquired, his tone transitioning from authoritative to uncertain. "I am a law student, in my final year, at the top of my class, specializing in constitutional law, and this stop infringes upon my Fourth Amendment rights." Jeffrey took a step back from the window. The body camera recorded his hand move towards his radio, then retreat to his side. Uncertainty had replaced his former assertiveness. He withdrew a small notepad, the kind officers typically use for issuing citations. However, he did not write anything. He simply held it, as if the physical object could possibly restore some of the authority he was rapidly losing. "I stopped you because your vehicle matched the description of a suspicious vehicle that was reported in the area," Jeffrey stated, altering his initial explanation. Cindy's eyes narrowed. "What description? What area? What report number? And why did you not disclose this information when you initially approached my window?" Silence. The body camera footage reveals Jeffrey standing there, notepad in hand, uttering no words for a full 7 seconds. 7 seconds might not seem like a significant duration, but in a tense encounter such as this, it constitutes an eternity. "You are being argumentative," Jeffrey finally declared. "No, officer. I am requesting that you justify this stop with concrete legal reasoning. That is not argumentative. It is constitutional. You initiated a stop. You must articulate the grounds for it. If you are unable to do so, then this stop is unlawful, and any evidence subsequently obtained would be inadmissible in court." Jeffrey attempted to regain control. "Step out of the vehicle." "On what grounds?" "I am ordering you to step out of the vehicle. And I am asking you, on what legal grounds? Do you possess reasonable suspicion that I am armed? Do you have probable cause to believe I have committed a crime? Or are you escalating this stop because I am exercising my rights?" The body camera captures Jeffrey's respiration becoming more pronounced. This is audible in the recording. He was beginning to grasp a critical realization. This woman was correct, and he was mistaken. More importantly, every moment was being documented. Cindy continued, her voice never rising in pitch or becoming emotional. "Officer, allow me to explain something to you. When you initiated this stop, you commenced a Fourth Amendment seizure. This is not my opinion. It is constitutional law, established in Delaware v. Prowse. For that seizure to be lawful, you require reasonable suspicion of a traffic violation or criminal activity. You have now presented 2 different justifications for this stop. Initially, you stated my lane position was suspicious. Subsequently, you claim my vehicle matched a described description. Neither of these explanations meets the legal threshold, and your inconsistency suggests you lacked a legitimate reason from the outset. Jeffrey's face, partially discernible in the reflections on the car window, displayed palpable fear, genuine fear, because Cindy was unequivocally correct, and both individuals were aware of this fact. "I believe you are correct," Jeffrey stated quietly. "I know I am correct," Cindy responded. "You may go," Jeffrey said, stepping away from the vehicle. However, Cindy did not start her car. She did not place her hands back on the steering wheel. Instead, she opened her car door and exited the vehicle, not at Jeffrey's command, but by her own volition. "Officer, our interaction is not concluded," she declared, standing beside her car with an air of complete self-assurance. Jeffrey now appeared genuinely apprehensive. "Ma'am, I stated that you are free to leave. Before I depart, I require your badge number and the name of your station. That is not necessary." "It absolutely is necessary. You have just violated my constitutional rights. You initiated an unlawful stop. You attempted to intimidate me into compliance. You altered your justification for the stop multiple times, suggesting racial profiling. And all of this is captured on your body camera, so I require your badge number, your full name, and your assigned station." The desert highway was remarkably quiet, save for the faint hum of distant traffic. The sun had nearly completely dipped below the horizon. Jeffrey's patrol car's flashing lights bathed the surroundings in intermittent red and blue hues. Jeffrey provided Cindy with the requested information. His badge number was 4158. His full name was Jeffrey Mars. He was affiliated with the Desert Valley Police Department's East Division. Cindy retrieved her phone and meticulously recorded all the details. "Thank you, officer," she stated. "I intend to file a formal complaint. I will also be requesting all body camera and dash camera footage from this stop. And should the department attempt to deny my request, I will pursue a public records lawsuit. I am fully aware of the proper procedures." Jeffrey remained silent. What recourse did he have? He had conducted an improper stop, been called out for it, and was now facing the repercussions. Cindy returned to her vehicle and departed. The entire interaction had lasted a mere 11 minutes. 11 minutes that would irrevocably alter Jeffrey's career trajectory. Now, many individuals who experience a negative encounter with law enforcement might vent to friends or family. They might share their experience on social media. Some may even lodge a complaint, hoping for some form of resolution. However, Cindy was not typical. She was a law student with 3 years of legal education and access to resources unavailable to most civilians. The following morning, Cindy proceeded to the university law library and commenced her work. She did not simply complete a standard complaint form. Instead, she drafted a comprehensive legal document detailing every infraction that transpired during the traffic stop. She cited relevant case law. She referenced police procedure manuals. She quoted the Fourth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. She included a precise timeline with exact timestamps derived from the body camera footage, which she formally requested via a public records submission. Her submission was more than just a complaint. It was a legal brief, akin to a document a practicing civil rights attorney would submit. It was thorough, professional, and utterly damning. She submitted it to the Desert Valley Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. Additionally, she dispatched copies to the department's legal counsel, the city attorney's office, and the local ACLU chapter. Her objective was to ensure multiple entities were apprised of the incident and that it could not be easily dismissed. The police department received Cindy's complaint on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Jeffrey had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. This was an unusual pace. Typically, such investigations require weeks merely to initiate. However, Cindy's complaint was so meticulously detailed and legally robust that the department could not disregard it. Internal Affairs assigned the case to a senior investigator named Lieutenant Paul Brennan. Paul possessed 22 years of service with the department and had investigated hundreds of complaints concerning officer conduct. He had encountered everything from minor policy breaches to grave criminal misconduct. Nevertheless, upon reviewing Cindy's complaint, he recognized its exceptional nature. Paul retrieved the body camera footage. He viewed it once, then he reviewed it again. Subsequently, he invited the department's legal advisor to watch it with him. The footage corroborated every assertion Cindy had made in her complaint. Jeffrey had initiated a stop without reasonable suspicion. He had altered his rationale multiple times. He had attempted to intimidate the individual he stopped. He had ordered her out of the vehicle without any legal justification. And when confronted with legal principles, he had conceded, acknowledging his error. However, there was another element within the footage that elevated the seriousness of this case. At one juncture during the encounter, Jeffrey's hand moved towards his service weapon. It was a swift, almost imperceptible movement, yet it was discernible. He did not draw the weapon. He did not even touch it, but the motion suggested he had contemplated doing so. And for what reason? Over a woman effectively articulating constitutional law to him. Paul interviewed Jeffrey 3 days after the incident occurred. The interview proved unfavorable for the officer. "Why did you initiate the stop?" Paul inquired. "I perceived her lane positioning as suspicious," Jeffrey responded. "Suspicious in what manner?" "She was, I don't know, it just felt off." "Did she cross lane markers?" "No." "Did she swerve?" "No." "Did she drive erratically in any way?" "No." But what?" Jeffrey fell silent. He then uttered a statement that sealed his professional fate. "She looked out of place in that area." Paul closed his notebook. "What do you mean by out of place?" I don't know. It was instinct." "Instinct does not constitute reasonable suspicion, Jeffrey. You are aware of that." The interview lasted 45 minutes. By its conclusion, Paul had amassed sufficient evidence to render a determination. Jeffrey had executed a pretextual stop predicated on racial profiling. He had contravened department policy, constitutional law, and the public trust. The investigation concluded in a total of 2 weeks. This is remarkably swift for a police internal investigation. Most require months, but the evidence was so unequivocal, and Cindy's legal complaint so meticulously prepared, that substantial investigation was unnecessary. All aspects were documented. Everything was captured on camera. Everything was irrefutable. The department's findings were released in a concise statement. Jeffrey had violated numerous department policies and procedures. He had conducted a traffic stop without reasonable suspicion. He had failed to articulate a valid legal basis for the stop. He had exhibited bias in his enforcement actions. The department recommended termination. However, prior to the completion of the termination proceedings, Jeffrey resigned. He did not contest the findings. He did not appeal. He simply resigned and departed from law enforcement. A 12-year career concluded due to an 11-minute traffic stop. Now you might be contemplating the fate of the body camera footage. The department initially attempted to prevent its public release. They contended it was part of an ongoing investigation, and that its release would infringe upon Jeffrey's privacy rights. Nonetheless, Cindy was not inclined to accept this. She initiated a public records lawsuit in county court. She represented herself, as, frankly, she required no legal assistance. She possessed the proficiency of any practicing attorney. The lawsuit asserted that the body camera footage constituted a public record under Arizona law, and that the public retained the right to observe the operations of their police department. The judge concurred. The footage was released 6 weeks subsequent to the incident. Upon its appearance online, the footage generated significant attention. News outlets seized upon it. Social media platforms shared it millions of times. Legal analysts dissected it frame by frame. Law professors incorporated it into their courses as an illustration of the ramifications when officers lack a comprehensive understanding of the law, contrary to their own perceptions. Some individuals lauded Cindy for asserting her rights. Others criticized her for being uncooperative with the officer. A subset opined that she was fortunate the situation did not escalate further. Still, others maintained that the situation should never have originated. However, there was one undeniable truth. Cindy was accurate in all her assertions. Every legal claim she articulated during that stop was precise. Every case she cited was correctly applied. Every constitutional argument was sound. She did not merely possess a working knowledge of the law. She understood it more proficiently than the individual tasked with its enforcement. The Desert Valley Police Department implemented certain changes following this incident. They introduced supplementary training on constitutional law for all officers. They revised their protocols pertaining to traffic stops. They engaged legal experts to instruct officers on the Fourth Amendment and reasonable suspicion. Essentially, they mandated their officers attend the type of instruction Cindy could have provided. Cindy graduated from law school 2 months after the incident. She achieved the highest academic standing in her class, a result that surprised no one. She received numerous job offers from law firms nationwide. Prominent firms sought her expertise. Civil rights organizations actively recruited her. Even some governmental agencies expressed interest. She opted to join a nonprofit legal organization, developing to representing individuals who have been wronged by law enforcement. Her casework involves unlawful stops, false arrests, excessive force, and police misconduct. She excels in this capacity, demonstrating exceptional skill. In interviews, Cindy has disclosed that the traffic stop involving Jeffrey was not her inaugural experience with racial profiling. It was not even the first instance of being pulled over without legitimate cause. However, it was the first occasion where she possessed the requisite legal knowledge to actively defend herself in the moment. She utilized this knowledge not only for her own protection, but also to cultivate a teachable moment that would be witnessed by millions. Here is a question for you. If you found yourself in Cindy's predicament, would you have responded in a similar fashion? Provide your thoughts in the comments section. Let us consider the broader implications of this narrative. This is not solely the story of one law student and one police officer. It underscores the principle that knowledge is power. It emphasizes the importance of understanding one's rights and the willingness to assert them, even when confronted by an authority figure who attempts to silence you. The majority of individuals lack a detailed comprehension of their constitutional rights. Most are unaware of the precise definition of reasonable suspicion or the specific protections afforded by the Fourth Amendment. Certain law enforcement officers rely upon this lack of awareness. They anticipate that individuals will be either too intimidated or too ill-informed to question their actions. However, when confronted by an individual like Cindy, one who has dedicated years to legal study, who precisely delineates the parameters of police authority, and who can recite Supreme Court rulings from memory, the power dynamic undergoes a transformation. The badge no longer automatically confers dominion. The uniform no longer automatically commands submission. Knowledge emerges as the primary force for equilibrium. This case also draws attention to a significant deficiency in law enforcement training. Jeffrey possessed 12 years of experience as a police officer. He had completed academy training. He had attended in-service training sessions. He had conducted hundreds of traffic stops. Yet, when faced by a law student, he could not provide a fundamental legal rationale for his conduct. This represents a deficiency in training, a breakdown in the system. Consider this. If Jeffrey, after a decade on the force, was unaware of the constitutional criteria for a lawful traffic stop, how many other officers share this lack of knowledge? How many individuals have been subjected to unlawful stops, searches, or arrests by officers who lacked a genuine understanding of the laws they were tasked with enforcing? The body camera footage from this encounter transformed into an educational resource. Police academies utilize it as a case study of what not to do, while law schools present it as a practical illustration of Fourth Amendment rights. Civil rights organizations employ it to inform communities about their entitlements during interactions with law enforcement. An 11-minute traffic stop ignited a national dialogue concerning police training, constitutional liberties, racial bias, and the critical importance of accountability. There is another significant aspect to this narrative: the body camera itself. Without the camera meticulously recording every detail, this incident would have devolved into a he said, she said dispute. Jeffrey could have documented in his report that Cindy was driving erratically or was uncooperative, claiming anything he desired. Who would the department have believed? A 12-year veteran officer or a law student? However, the camera does not equivocate. It captured Jeffrey's shifting explanations, his inability to articulate reasonable suspicion, and the precise moment he grasped his error. The camera documented everything. The smokers of body cameras. They safeguard conscientious officers from baseless accusations and ensure that officers who engage in misconduct are held responsible. In this particular instance, the footage unequivocally demonstrated Cindy's veracity and Jeffrey's infringement upon her rights. Following the widespread dissemination of the footage, several additional individuals came forward with complaints pertaining to Jeffrey. It transpired that this was not an isolated occurrence. Other drivers, predominantly of Black and Latino descent, reported being stopped by Jeffrey for dubious reasons. Their complaints, though filed with the department, had never led to substantial repercussions. Nevertheless, after Cindy's case, these complaints underwent re-evaluation. A discernible pattern emerged. Jeffrey had a history of pretextual stops, a pattern that the department had previously overlooked. This raises a further inquiry. How many other officers exhibit similar behavioral patterns that law enforcement agencies are disregarding? How many complaints are lodged, only to be suppressed? How many individuals lack the knowledge or resources to challenge such actions, as Cindy did? Let us address a point raised by some when this story gained traction online. Certain commentators suggested that Cindy was difficult or confrontational with Jeffrey. They posited that she should have simply complied and lodged a complaint at a later time, arguing that arguing with a police officer is perilous and could have led to her harm. The reality is that Cindy was not confrontational. Review the footage. Her voice never escalated. She never insulted Jeffrey, nor did she issue threats. She merely stated facts, elucidated the law, and posed questions that Jeffrey was incapable of answering. This demonstrates informed engagement, not combativeness. Regarding the assertion that she should have complied to avert danger, this is precisely the core issue. This perspective presumes that police officers possess unlimited authority and that citizens must acquiesce even when their rights are being violated. Constitutional rights do not function in this manner. Rights that can only be exercised at the convenience of the authority are, in essence, not rights at all. Undoubtedly, there is a stark reality that challenging law enforcement officers can be dangerous, particularly for Black Americans. Cindy was aware of this risk, assessed it, and determined that asserting her rights was a worthwhile endeavor. It is understandable that not everyone can make such a choice. However, the mere fact that asserting one's constitutional rights is perceived as dangerous speaks volumes about the problem at hand. So, what are the overarching lessons from this entire episode? What should individuals glean from Cindy's experience? Firstly, be cognizant of your rights. One need not possess a law degree to grasp the fundamental tenets of the Fourth Amendment. Memorizing Supreme Court rulings is unnecessary. However, you should be aware that police require reasonable suspicion to initiate a stop, probable cause for an arrest, and a warrant or an established exception to search your property. You should know that you have the right to remain silent and that you can refuse consent to a search. Secondly, maintain composure. Observe that Cindy never raised her voice, insulted Jeffrey, or became emotionally distraught. She remained calm and professional, which amplified the persuasiveness of her arguments. Losing one's temper during an encounter with law enforcement does not improve your situation. Thirdly, meticulously document all interactions. Cindy requested Jeffrey's badge number and departmental affiliation. She formally submitted a public records request for the footage, thereby establishing a documented trace. If you find yourself in a comparable predicament, gather information, record the events, and preserve any existing evidence. Fourthly, persevere with follow-through. Cindy did not merely voice her grievances to friends or share her experience on social media. She lodged a formal, detailed legal complaint, requested official records, and initiated a lawsuit when deemed necessary, seeing the matter through to its conclusion. Fifthly, leverage your knowledge and advantages to assist others. Cindy pursued a career as a civil rights attorney. She now utilizes her personal experience to aid individuals who lack the legal expertise to defend themselves. This is how individual incidents can catalyze broader, systemic change. As of this moment, Jeffrey is no longer employed in law enforcement. He resigned from the Desert Valley Police Department and, according to public records, has not been hired by any other police agency. His law enforcement career has concluded. Cindy is now a practicing attorney with a commendable record of successful cases. She has secured settlements for clients who were victims of police misconduct and has influenced policy reforms in numerous police departments. She delivers lectures at universities and community centers on civil rights and police accountability. The Department Valley Police Department has revised its training curricula and operational policies. They have instituted more stringent oversight protocols for traffic stops and established an early warning system designed to identify officers with recurring complaint patterns. Furthermore, they have engaged external specialists to scrutinize their practices. None of these transformative changes would have materialized had Cindy passively surrendered her license and registration without question. None of these advancements would have occurred had she remained silent. None of these improvements would have been realized had she not been aware of her rights and resolute in her willingness to assert them. One woman, a single traffic stop, 11 minutes, and an entire department was compelled to adapt. Such is the potency of knowledge. Such is the significance of accountability. This is the outcome when an individual refuses to countenance injustice, even in a situation where most would simply yield to conformity. A final question for you. What is one thing you have learned from this narrative that was previously unknown to you? Please share your answer in the comments section, and remember to subscribe for more compelling stories. This particular account is significant not solely because of Cindy and Jeffrey. It resonates with every person who has been stopped for driving while black. It speaks to every traffic stop initiated based on skin color rather than traffic infractions. It pertains to every officer who believes their badge exempts them from providing explanations. It concerns every individual who maintains silence out of apprehension towards challenging authority. Cindy's story demonstrates that it is possible to contend within the existing system. It is possible to understand the law, to assert your rights, and to hold individuals accountable. And, on occasion, it is possible to prevail. Not every narrative culminates in such a resolution. Not every unlawful stop results in disciplinary action against an officer, nor does every complaint translate into tangible change. However, this particular instance did, and that is profoundly important. The body camera footage from that March evening remains accessible online. You can view it for yourself. You can witness a law student calmly articulating constitutional law to an officer who believed he possessed superior knowledge. You can observe the exact moment he realizes his error. You can witness the embodiment of accountability. And perhaps, just perhaps, the next time an individual is stopped without legitimate cause, they will recall Cindy's story. They will know that reasonable suspicion is a prerequisite. They will understand that mere suspicion is insufficient. They will recognize that they possess rights, and these rights do not vanish simply because an individual is wearing a badge. This is Cindy's enduring legacy, not merely securing one officer's suspension or altering a single department's policies, but demonstrating to millions that knowledge is power and that rights are worth defending. This is the account of how a black female law student educated a white police officer on legal principles, ultimately leading to his suspension. But more than that, it is a narrative of courage, knowledge, and the continuous struggle for justice in America.